Welcome. I'm Katie Bayaris, Public Art Project Manager with the City of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. And welcome to the 55th Avenue Promenade in Western Canal Call to Artists informational meeting. Before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this meeting, so it will be available on our website and on YouTube for future reference early next week. Please keep yourself on mute during the presentation until we open the floor for questions. We will have about 30 minutes or more for questions at the end. And just to let you know how the meeting is going to go, we're first going to talk about the call to artists and the two specific projects that it pertains to, and then we will go through how to submit your application in CAFE at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie Brown, Deputy Director of the Office of Arts and Culture, to do a little background on the program and to do some introductions of our team.
Great, thank you, Katie. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, thank you. Well, as Katie said, I'm Carrie Brown and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Arts and Culture. Thank you for joining us today and thank you for your interest in these opportunities. Of course, we've got Katie on the call who is managing the selection process for these opportunities. We also have a few other team members, including Barry Sparkman and Katina Crum, who are also project managers. And we also have Romeo Rabusa, who is our procurement manager as well. So I'll go through a few slides quickly. I'll turn it back over to Katie and the rest of us will be in the background as backup as needed. Okay, so before we go any further, I'd like to recognize that the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture acknowledges that modern-day Phoenix is on the traditional lands of the Akimel O'odham, Pima, and the Tohono O'odham, and before that, their ancestors Hohokam, as well as the Peepash Maricopa. We honor the elders of both past and present, as well as future generations that enable us to live here today. Further, we acknowledge the sovereignty of the 22 tribal nations who continue to steward the lands that make up the state of Arizona. Next slide. Now, as some of you may know, the City of Phoenix Public Art Program has been in existence since 1986 and allocates 1% of Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, for the acquisition of artwork. Our program believes in fostering collaborations among artists, engineers, architects, landscape architects, and other urban designers to enhance the look, feel, and function of public infrastructure, and believes in providing opportunities to engage with communities in meaningful ways. Today, the public art collection includes over 190 permanent and temporary site-specific artworks that are at or near CIP projects throughout the city. The program also manages a portable works collection that began in 1915 and includes over 1,000 works of art. Next slide. Artists who work with our program enhance many types of urban infrastructure, including bridges, transit shelters, trails, and public parks, underpasses, airports, and recycling centers, just to name a few. The public art opportunities that you'll hear about today are yet another opportunity for artists to influence the design of the built environment here in Phoenix. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Katie.
Thank you, Carrie. This call is for artists. This call for artists is for two projects that are in need of sculptures. The Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture is requesting submissions from professional artists for purchase of existing sculptures for semi-permanent to permanent display at two locations in Phoenix. The first location we'll talk about is the 55th Avenue Promenade location, which extends from Camelback Road on the north to Indian School on the south. And then the second location we'll talk about is the Western Canalscape project at 20th Street. The 55th Avenue Promenade, we're going to talk about first. This is a linear green space with some pedestrian amenities such as shade trees and a walking path or two walking paths. As a part of the city's Cool Corridor program, the sidewalks and trees are being added to the space. In addition, the Office of Arts and Culture intends to add 4 plinths or pedestals for sculpture that will be added along the walking path. For this call, we are seeking artwork to enhance the pedestrian experience of this unique community amenity. Up to 4 artists will be commissioned for this opportunity, with the artwork being on display for up to 24 months. Selected artworks may also become a part of the city's municipal collection and remain on display permanently in this location or in other locations. Let me go back to this a little bit. This is the layout of the medians. They're located between the north and southbound lanes at 55th Avenue in a pretty residential area of Phoenix. It extends from Indian School Road on the south up to Camelback Road on the north. So there are basically 4 sections of medians, and we intend to put a plinth or a pedestal for sculpture in each of these medians. Again, the improvements include adding trees and sidewalks on both the east and west sides of the median. This is a field engineered project, so we have not identified exactly where the plinths or pedestals will go. But this art opportunity is going to be for 4 sculptures that we will then mount to concrete plinths or pedestals. And this is just an example of a project of one of our sister programs over in Scottsdale. They have some plinths located around their city as well. And so that is what we're looking at adding, a concrete pedestal there for a sculpture that will be a base. The other opportunity is the Western Canalscape. This will be located at the Western Canal and 20th Street, and it's a part of a larger canal improvement project along this water canal. The Street Transportation Department, in conjunction with the Salt River Project, is transforming the Western Canal from a dirt path into an improved concrete pathway, similar to what you see in this photo. It will extend from 4th Avenue to 24th Street. And improvements include the pathway, lighting, landscaping where possible, and some other possible improvements, including public art. The design for this project is 100% complete, and they brought us in a little bit late in the game. So the opportunity here has actually just been identified for us. There are 2 concrete pads located at the intersection of 20th Street and the Western Canal. There's a cul-de-sac at the end of 20th Street. And then you see the 2 little orange squares. There will be concrete pads laid in the ground for sculptures. Based on the sculptures that are submitted and that the selection panel reviews, some coordination may be required with the project team to add additional foundational structure underneath that concrete pad for the sculpture itself. But that will be evaluated after the selection process. Okay, now I want to go through requirements for both of these opportunities. This is all outlined in the call to artists, but we'll just talk through each of them. First of all, we're looking for artwork that will be no larger than 12 feet high and movable should future development of either site require their relocation. The sculptures must be made of durable, vandal-proof, weather-resistant, and low-maintenance materials suitable for an outdoor environment. Paper sculptures are not going to be suitable for this type of thing. The design and materials must mitigate any potential hazard to the public. For example, we don't want any sharp elements or protruding elements that could potentially cause any harm to a viewer because they will exist in public space. The artwork must not be religious, political, or figurative in subject matter. Artwork must fit concrete base pads ranging from 5 feet wide to 15 feet wide. As you saw in the 2 different locations, the plinths are obviously going to be a little bit smaller than the concrete pad location where the artwork will be mounted to the ground. So that is why there is a large range of dimensions for the base. Artwork must be suitable for attachment to a concrete pad using an attached plate, flange, or pin system. If selected, the artist will be asked to create a proposal for how the sculpture will be installed and may be required to provide engineered foundation drawings. The footings or concrete work needed for placement will be provided by the Office of Arts and Culture in consultation with the artist. Finally, the artwork should be able to be safely removed and reinstalled without damage or alteration. If the work requires any assembly, it must be able to be safely disassembled. This is in case it has to be moved or relocated for any future needs. So now I want to talk about the submission materials, what's required to apply for this project with your work. Again, we are looking for existing sculptures. So this is not where you're submitting a concept for a new sculpture or examples of past work that is not available. We are looking for existing sculptures that are available for purchase. The first thing you're going to provide in the application is a statement of intent. This is a succinct statement of why you think you are the right artist and your work is the right work for this opportunity. You can think of this as a job application, and this is kind of your cover letter. And the reason why it is limited to 1,000 characters is because we are trying to be considerate of our selection panelists who will have to read many of these. And you want to make sure that you can grab their attention in the shortest amount possible, because as they read through a lot, it is more difficult to read through long statements. Number two, you're going to need a resume or CV. If you're applying as a team, please submit one resume or CV in the upload. It could be all merged into one PDF or doc file. And three, the most important part is 6 to 10 digital images of your sculpture in a JPEG format. The call to artists is pretty specific on the CAFE requirements. JPEGs only. The dimensions should be about 1,200 pixels or greater on the longest side, under 5 megabytes in size. There is more additional information on CAFE, and I will show you where to find that when we go through the how to apply part. When you do apply for this and upload your images, you will need to include materials, dimensions, weight, year completed, estimated budget. When you upload your images in CAFE, there are spaces for all of that information in your portfolio. And I'll show you how to find that information as well. Just to go over the schedule quickly, today is October 21st, so that is, we are at that second line on the informational meeting. The call is going to remain open until December 5th, 2022, and the deadline is 11:59 p.m. At that point in time, the application system on CAFE will close down. You won't be able to submit applications, so make sure you give yourself ample time to submit. If you have questions about the call, you do need to submit them to Romeo Rabusa, who is on our call right now, but I'll share his contact information here in a second. It's also in the call to artists. Deadline for questions to him are due by November 21st by noon, so that we can answer any questions about how to apply or the call. In January of 2023, we will hold some selection panels to recommend finalists for each project. In February of 2023, we will make our final selection of the sculptures. And in the spring and summer of 2023, we will get those artists under official contract and hopefully begin installing those sculptures in the summer of 2023. Budgets. The budget for each of these projects is $150,000. You'll see at 55th Avenue, it's $150,000 for 4 sculptures, and at Western Canalscape, it's $150,000 for 2 sculptures. That is because we expect the sculptures for the Western Canalscape to be larger than the sculptures for the 55th Avenue Promenade, because the Promenade sculptures will be mounted on raised plinths. These budgets will include all costs related to the purchase, shipping, administration, and installation of the artworks. So consider that when you are estimating what your budgets are for your sculpture, and what you will be submitting, because the panel will be reviewing that with this budget in mind. And then here's just a little bit more information about the selection process and criteria. The selection panel will be convened by the Office of Arts and Culture, and members of the panel will include art and design professionals, representatives from the city departments that are funding these projects, and also community members. We may also have some non-voting advisors to the panel that could be additional city staff or members of the design team on each of the projects. The panel will review the work of all the applicants before making a final recommendation to the Arts and Culture Commission for approval. At the selection panel meeting, artists will be selected from the pool of applicants using a 20-point system. The scoring will be based upon the following distribution of points. First criteria is the demonstrated artistic quality of the completed artwork for 10 points. And second is the appropriateness for the public setting and the existing collection of the City of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture Public Art Program. That's the selection process and criteria. This is your contact for any questions you might have during the process. This is an official City of Phoenix procurement process. So this is why we are very specific about who answers the questions. Romeo Ragusa is our procurement officer here in the Office of Arts and Culture. So he is your official contact for questions. You need to submit any questions to him at romeoragusa@phoenix.gov by November 21st at noon. And here's some more information about how to find the call to artist and how to get to the applications. First, you will want to visit our website. And if you've attended this meeting, that's probably how you found the link to this meeting. On our front page, you'll see a little section that says current public art calls to artists. If you click learn more, it will take you over here to our opportunities page, which has links to download the application requirements and a link to apply online. Here are some tips before you go and apply. We do recommend that you read the full RFQ. We've hit on a couple of highlights of the information in the RFQ here at this meeting, but reading the full RFQ is really important. There is a more detailed scope of work in that RFQ, as well as project descriptions of both of the projects. The criteria and the evaluation and selection process is outlined in the call to artist, as well as the response information, or what you have to provide in the application. It's also important to note in the RFQ, there is a section on transparency policy. That is what you need to read to make sure that you remain eligible for the project. And then there's also a section on terms and conditions. Those terms and conditions are what your contract will be based on if you are selected for the project. So it outlines things like insurance requirements and terms and conditions within a city contract. So it's good to get an understanding of what you are signing up for by reading the RFQ. And then before you apply, I like to go through a couple of tips for photography because photographs are always the most important part of the application. These are just some recommendations that we have pulled together after running many selection processes and seeing which images perform better for artists versus which ones prevent artists from moving forward into each round. First, we recommend using your absolute best photographs. If you can hire a professional photographer to photograph your work, that's a good practice. Avoid using busy backgrounds because it can be distracting from the work. We recommend that you don't pose with your art. We have artists oftentimes send selfies. standing next to their work. Those just don't tend to do very well when being presented to a selection panel. And then we also recommend that you do not collage together more than one photograph into the JPEG. That is because it makes your images smaller and more difficult for the selection panelists to see. So I'll show some quick examples of do's and don'ts for photographs based on this information. First, this is a really good photograph. This is a do. This was photographed by a professional photographer, Matt Winquist. It's got a great layout. It has people in it, but it is not a selfie with the artwork, so it shows scale, but the artwork is really at the forefront and it is impactful. It's large, so the selection panel can really see what the artwork is doing there. This we consider a don't. The photograph, first of all, is blurry. So it's not a great photograph, but second of all, it has that very busy background of the apartment building in the back. So the artwork itself kind of gets lost in the surrounding environment and busy background. It would be much better. The photograph is much better taken from a different angle because your eye here is drawn to looking at the bright colors behind the artwork rather than the sculpture itself. This is an example of the collage that is not ideal. A lot of artists think that it's better to show more photographs, so collage together more photographs on an image, but it actually will take away from the photographs that you're submitting because it's too busy and it's difficult for panelists to really see what's happening about the artwork in each of the photos. So we don't recommend that you do this. And there's no need to put the text on the photo about it because you will have all of your information from the portfolio entered into Cafe, and the panelists will be able to see that when they scroll over your image so that they can learn those details. So you don't have to put that information on your images. Again, I'm just going to put up this slide with Romeo's contact information for questions, but I am going to pause right now to ask if there are any questions about the opportunities. We can talk more about the locations or the pieces themselves. And then after that, if there are no questions, we'll go into how to apply to a call to artists in Cafe. Barry, did we have any questions in the chat box?
There are no questions in the chat. So Jennifer and Ryan, if you have questions, you can unmute and ask them.
Hi there. Thank you for the information. This is helpful. First question is, okay, it says 6 to 10 photographs in Cafe for the application. So if I think I would only have 4 sculptures that would even meet this criteria. So if I was applying to try to show these 4 different sculptures, since it's up to 10, could I do like 2 photos of each one kind of at different angles?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it's basically up to 10 chances to show what we have available.
Yeah.
Okay. And then can you go over again, the budget would be the sculpture itself. I heard shipping it. Would you want the artist to come and install or manage installation or oversee it?
I think it would kind of depend on the sculpture and the foundation itself.
Okay.
So that would be sort of dependent on that. So we're not, I'm not expecting the $150,000 to be evenly spaced out because it may cost more to install one piece of sculpture than another. Based on the sculpture itself and the way that it's mounted. And we may need the artist to come. Most of the time, we do have the artist come with their work to oversee the installation, but we would coordinate that specifically with each artist.
Okay, so building into um, the cost that we end up coming with would maybe be a trip down and delivering it. And okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, you said temporary for 2 years with the potential to have it displayed permanently, but I'm assuming even if it's only temporary, you're still buying the sculpture. It's not going to come back to us like a temporary rotating exhibit. Or
Yes, I believe. Yes. Yes.
okay.
It will become a part of the permanent collection of the Office of Arts and
Okay.
Culture. It's phrased a little differently because at the 55th Avenue Promenade, the sculptures may be there temporarily and then be moved for another piece of sculpture to come in. The Western Canalscape, those will be probably permanent because they will be ground mounted in a public space, and it's very unlikely that those would not be permanent. But because we were trying to write the call to cover both
Right.
opportunities, yeah.
Got
So it's a really good question. That's a really good
Okay.
question.
Okay. And then for the 55th Avenue Promenade, so they're going to install plinths, but that's where there's more leeway on where they're going and maybe how big they'll be. Is that
Correct.
okay?
Yes.
So
We
that
have
would
not
be,
engineered those yet.
got it. And that might be based on what you end up selecting and then working
Yes.
with the artist on what they need. Okay. Great. I think that answers my questions right now. Thank you.
Those are great questions. And I think actually, Jennifer, you are the only artist on the call right now. Everyone else is city staff. So I'm going to go on with the rest of the presentation, which is how to apply in Cafe. You are welcome to join us if you would like to step out because you already know how to apply into an artist call in Cafe. That is fine too. But we're going to do this so that it will be a part of the recording for anyone else who has not yet utilized the Cafe system to apply.
Okay, I think I'm going to step out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, this is how to apply to a call to artists in Cafe. The City of Phoenix uses an online application system called Cafe to accept and review applications from artists for its public art opportunities. Cafe stands for Call for Entry, which you can see that is the website, www.callforentry.org. This presentation will show you how to find and submit an application using this system. If you need more help with Cafe, such as setting up your account and portfolio, the Cafe website has great support resources, and it's a great place to find other public art opportunities all over the country. The first step in applying for a call in Cafe is going to be to open a browser window and navigate to www.callforentry.org. Then you will be asked to log in using your username and password that you have set up with your account. Once you have logged in, you are going to go to the Apply to Calls tab and type in the word Phoenix into the call listing search bar. That will bring up any of the call to artists that are available from our office right now. You can see here we have the 55th Avenue Promenade that's currently open. We also have the Marybelle Grand Canal Crossing that's currently open, and we'll be opening another call to artists next week as well. So then you'll scroll down to find the call you're looking for and click on the green Apply Now button. And the first page that will take you to in the call to artists will be the agreement. This agreement is the terms and conditions that is outlined in the call to artist. So you will be asked to agree to this before proceeding to the next step in the application. Once you agree to those terms and conditions, you'll be asked to complete the form questions. They're actually pretty simple questions. The first is the statement of intent, which was what we talked about before. Again, it's a 1,000 character count, so it is streamlined. This is where you want to say why you're interested in the opportunity and describe your experience that will qualify qualify for your project. The second question is a document upload. That's where you're going to upload your resume or CV. Once you've done that, you will go on to choosing your work samples that you will upload to apply for the call. You can add your work samples in the portfolio section if you've not added them before. We have a minimum of 6 images and a maximum of 10 images. Then you will be ready to submit. At this point, you can go to the view preview of your application to review it before submitting. If you are ready to check out, then you are going to click I'm ready to check out. This will take you to the checkout page. There will be no fee to apply to this call. There's never a fee to apply to calls with our office. So you will just click proceed to checkout here, and it should say 0. Then this page is the final page before you submit your entry. That submit entry button is the final submission button. After you click that submit entry button, you won't be able to make any changes to your application. So be sure you have reviewed and double check your work before you submit. Now we've come to the end of the presentation. I will pause here for any questions, though I'm not sure there will be any. Okay, thanks so very much for joining us today. We hope you apply to the Call to Artists soon, and stay aware of what's happening at the Office of Arts and Culture at www.phoenix.gov/arts.